A group of professional treasure hunters in Florida hit the jackpot big time, finding more than 1,000 silver and gold coins discovered in the remains of a Spanish fleet that sank more than 300 years ago.
What if everything a treasure hunter believed for decades suddenly shifted in one profound moment? Dennis Asberg, a man who spent years chasing ancient relics and forgotten fortunes, delivers a message so powerful it challenges everything we thought about the pursuit of treasure. His story isn't just about gold or artifacts. There's a deeper truth that shocks and inspires. Have you ever wondered what drives a lifelong adventurer when the thrill fades? Dennis's final words offer an extraordinary insight into what really matters, turning the treasure hunt into something far more meaningful. This is not your typical tale of riches. It's a call that has stunned many, urging us to rethink our priorities before time runs out. The unexpected crisis. Dennis Asberg, life as a treasure hunter was turned upside down by a moment nobody saw coming. After decades spent chasing forgotten gold and relics, he faced a sudden crisis that forced him to question everything he once believed. This moment was not just a simple setback. It challenged the very foundation of his mission and shook his understanding of what treasure truly meant. People around him noticed the change. Dennis was no longer just the relentless seeker chasing material wealth. At the heart of this crisis was an incident that seemed ordinary on the surface, but carried extraordinary implications. Dennis was confronted with evidence and experiences that gradually dismantled his long-held perceptions. He realized the chase had blinded him to a deeper reality. Although he had uncovered incredible artifacts, the meaning behind these discoveries started slipping away, creating an unsettling void. This crisis did not come with a clear explanation, leaving Dennis and those close to him searching for answers. It was as if the treasure he'd pursued for years was no longer enough to satisfy the questions growing inside him. Instead of triumph, he felt a creeping sense of doubt about the value of his work and the legacy he would leave behind. The thrill that once drove him began to feel hollow, as if decades had passed without truly capturing what mattered most. What added to the urgency was Dennis's awareness of time slipping away. He knew his days were limited, and the pressing need to find clarity grew more intense with each passing moment. The weight of this discovery pressed heavily, urging him to reconsider not just what he hunted, but why he hunted at all. This wasn't just a personal struggle. It felt like a warning meant to be shared beyond his own circle. Friends and colleagues noticed a shift in Dennis's outlook, sensing that something significant was brewing beneath the surface. The man who had once been defined by physical finds was now grappling with intangible truths. His silence on the matter only added to the speculation, but those closest to him felt the impending revelation was unlike anything before. The crisis was preparing the stage for a message that could astonish the wider world. Despite the turmoil, Dennis did not retreat from the search entirely. Instead, he began looking beyond artifacts, searching for a wisdom that had eluded his grasp. His focus gradually expanded from the physical to the philosophical, marking a profound transformation in his approach. This shift hinted at the profound insights he was about to share. Insights shaped by years of experience, but transformed by that unexpected crisis. Though the full message remained shrouded, the clues were unmistakable. Dennis's story became less about treasure and more about the lessons hidden within that pursuit. It was clear something vital was waiting to emerge, but how and when remained uncertain. This tension created a powerful undercurrent, setting the scene for a revelation that could change perceptions forever. As the crisis deepened, Dennis realized that conventional treasure hunting could no longer satisfy his spirit. The pursuit of riches had to yield to a search for meaning beyond the material. He was compelled to look inward, reckoning with questions that no artifact could answer. This internal journey was quietly underway, even as the world continued to see him as the treasure hunter he had always been. The weight of his crisis foreshadowed the explosive message that would soon unfold. It was evident that whatever Dennis would reveal next would defy expectations and challenge the very essence of treasure hunting itself. The story was no longer about maps and gold. It was about something far greater, waiting to astonish the world. Every journey has a turning point, and for Dennis, that unexpected crisis was the one that would redefine everything he had ever known. The echoes of his struggle flowed naturally into the story of how Dennis came to be the treasure hunter the world watched so closely. Life as a treasure hunter. Dennis Asberg's journey into treasure hunting began as a passionate pursuit, driven by adventure and the lure of history whispered through forgotten relics. As a young man, Dennis was captivated by tales of sunken ships and lost fortunes scattered beneath waves or buried in remote places. His early expeditions were fueled by curiosity and a relentless desire to uncover secrets that time tried to erase. This spark ignited a lifetime dedicated to exploration and discovery. Throughout his career, Dennis became known not just for his finds, but for his meticulous methods and deep respect for history. Unlike the reckless treasure seekers often portrayed in media, he approached every dig and dive with care and responsibility. Dennis understood that every artifact held a story far more valuable than its monetary worth. His reputation grew as someone who preserved history even while unearthing it. Much of Dennis's motivation sprang from a blend of fascination and the thrill of the chase. The unpredictability of each search, combined with the chance to glimpse pieces of the past, kept his spirit alive through decades of rigorous expeditions. He often spoke of the feeling when uncovering something hidden for centuries, an intoxicating mix of awe and accomplishment. For Dennis, treasure hunting was about connecting to eras and people long gone. However, amidst all the adventure, Dennis was still faced with a lot of challenges: technical, physical, and financial. The incessant demands of research, sailing into unknown territories, and sometimes getting unsatisfactory results were all factors that pushed his determination to the limit. He would step back and reassess the situation, but his love for the work hardly ever diminished. The belief that with every little discovery he was incrementing the grand narrative of humankind was the main reason for his passion. Along with museums, the academic circles, and sometimes even his personal library of rare books, his work added very little to the world's supply of artifacts. Dennis was not only associated with the treasure hunters, he was also members of the historians group that was very much alike to his sharing community. They used to communicate through knowledge, testing each other with what they found, and discussing the theories about lost civilizations or sunken treasures. This community was with him during both hard times and glorious victories. The friendship was an important part of the adventure and made Dennis's life more enriching, thanks again to the gold and gems. Eventually, the media couldn't help noticing, and the general public became interested in the Dennis's quests. His treasure revelations were on all the news, and soon he was invited to narrate the stories of his journeys through documentaries and interviews. His supporters appreciated not only his commitment, but also the romance of his quests, while the skeptics were inquiring about the worth or significance of the whole treasure hunting process. Dennis was, in a way, a double winner. He took home the main stage, but remained attached to the backstage due to the nature of his work. Not the notoriety, time moved on, and Dennis got to the point which often comes in the life of a treasure hunter: the dilemma of keeping the thrill of the hunt versus the realities of getting older and changing priorities, the questions of how one will be remembered, the morality of treasure hunting, and the influence on history were becoming more and more difficult to overlook. Telling this period of his life, he recognized the very first stages of his later insights. The excitement of treasure was gradually being replaced by something more profound. Dennis was really up and down in his career very often. But his love for history, and even more his love for telling these stories, remained. He was thought of as a very clever and perceptive person, and, therefore, was quite respected and accepted in this very peculiar world of treasure hunting. Nobody even imagined that, after all this time, he was actually getting ready to announce a new meaning of treasure that would completely change the old one. As the public absorbed tales of his life's adventures, many remained unaware of the inner transformation that was quietly unfolding, preparing the stage for his shocking revelation. The ripples of reaction from this revelation would soon sweep across the world in unexpected ways. The world's reaction. When Dennis Asberg's message first became public, it sent shockwaves through the treasure hunting community and beyond. People who had followed his expeditions and successes struggled to reconcile the seasoned adventurer they knew with the startling new perspective he shared. The surprise was not just in what he said, but in how profoundly it challenged long-held beliefs about treasure and success. Curiosity quickly turned into widespread discussion and debate. Media outlets rushed to cover the story, sparking headlines that ranged from disbelief to awe. Documentaries and interviews tried to unpack Dennis's words, while online forums buzzed with viewers trying to understand the implications. Some hailed him as a visionary, a treasure hunter who had glimpsed a truth others missed. Others dismissed the message as confusing or out of place for someone in his field. This unexpected notoriety pressed Dennis into the spotlight in ways he had not anticipated. Yet unlike the typical adventurous tales, his message was less about physical discoveries and more about wisdom gained from those years in the field. The world was forced to see treasure hunting through an entirely different lens, one focused on meaning, mortality, and purpose, rather than gold or artifacts. Among treasure hunters, reactions were deeply divided. Some felt inspired, viewing Dennis's words as a call to rethink their own motivations and redefine what success in this pursuit looked like. Others resisted, holding tightly to traditional views rooted in material gain. The message became a catalyst for serious conversations about ethics, legacy, and what should be left behind in the rush for riches. Outside the community, people unfamiliar with treasure hunting found Dennis's story captivating for its universal themes. His reflections on life, priorities, and what truly counts resonated with audiences globally. They saw in his journey a mirror for their own struggles with meaning and fulfillment. Dennis inadvertently became a symbol of a broader human search. Beyond just the glimmer of gold, social media amplified the message's reach, sparking viral discussions and debates across multiple platforms. Videos summarizing Dennis's insights drew millions of views, while comments ranged from admiration to skepticism. This viral spread demonstrated the hunger for stories that bridge adventure with deeper life lessons. Dennis's words transcended niche interest. Striking a chord worldwide, academic circles took note as well, with historians and philosophers referencing Dennis's ideas in discussions about the cultural significance of treasure hunting and human values. His perspective offered a fresh angle on how the past influences present priorities. This unexpected crossover into intellectual discussions further cemented the weight of his message. Despite the intense attention, Dennis remained intentionally humble, emphasizing that the real treasure was not something to possess, but to understand. His calm presence in public appearances contrasted with the storm his words had unleashed. This authenticity deepened respect from many listeners who saw him as more than just a hunter of lost riches. The world's reaction underscored how deeply Dennis's message resonated, cutting through assumptions about what a treasure hunter's story could be. The impact was becoming more than a local curiosity. It was a revelation with the power to inspire change far beyond the shores of any expedition. The unfolding of Dennis's message now demanded that the core meaning behind his words be revealed, inviting us to look beyond the surface into the hidden truth beneath his journey. The hidden message explained. Dennis Asberg's message, which stunned so many, centers not on the treasure itself but on the true meaning behind the quest. After years chasing gold and artifacts, he realized that the real value was never in material wealth, but in the stories and lessons those treasures represented. His revelation challenges the notion that success is measured by what you can claim or possess. Instead, Dennis emphasizes the importance of understanding, connection, and legacy. He spoke openly about how the endless pursuit of riches blinded him to the intangible gifts the hunt offered: wisdom, patience, and perspective. The artifacts he uncovered were silent witnesses to history, teaching timeless lessons about human nature, resilience, and the impermanence of material things. Dennis came to see that these lessons were far more precious than any coin or jewel. This insight transformed his view of treasure hunting from a physical chase into a spiritual journey. Dennis's message was also about death and the call to find the deeper meaning in life before it is too late. The knowledge of his limited time put a heavy weight on his words. He pressed the people around him to open their eyes to the far future and think about what legacy they would leave. For Dennis, the search for gold became a lifestyle metaphor, an uphill climb that had to be done by combining the three factors of ambition, reflection, and generosity. In addition, Dennis cautioned against the historical commercialization and the resulting lack of reverence for the civilizations that were sources of the treasures. He suggested to keep the tales along with the artifacts, conveying that every single item is the custodian of the memory of the people and the civilizations that are no more to him. Making that memory live was the greatest treasure. This call to moral obligation made a strong impact on those who had regarded treasure hunting solely in the light of financial gains. His covert message also put stress on the value of community and the sharing of knowledge. Dennis was of the opinion that the real wealth was in cooperation, learning from others, and letting the wisdom seep down through the ages. The picture of the lonely treasure hunter faded away and made room for a connected, meaningful mission. The speaker opened the door for people to look at the treasure not as something to be won and kept hidden, but as something to be loved and shared. Dennis's altered picture of treasure was the source of a very hopeful attitude among the listeners. The emphasis was on the positive side instead of on the negative boundaries. The message was well received in a world that was becoming more and more conscious of the need to emphasize meaning rather than material accumulation. For the speaker, this alteration was not giving up, but rather an extraordinary growth in knowing what is really important. The speaker's revelations also compelled the next explorers to think deeply about their approach to history and adventure. The speaker did not mince words. Do not allow the pursuit to take control of you so that you cannot see the human tales and teaching that come with the treasures. The search should be a source of enrichment for both your spirit and your wallet. This viewpoint has been the ignition for new debates among the admiring followers of the explorer. In the end, Dennis made it known that the most valuable thing was in man, the knowledge acquired from experience, the respect that he won through being honest, and the friendships that were made up of common goals. This epiphany redefined his whole life's purpose, and he became a beacon to the others who are searching for what is more than gold. The impact of his message is not just in the finding, but also in the sharing that he made before his passing. The power of Dennis's hidden message opened hearts and minds, setting the ground for reflecting on what we all truly seek in the treasures of our lives. As these profound insights took hold, they naturally led Dennis to explore the practical and philosophical lessons distilled from his years of relentless searching. Lessons from the hunt. Dennis Asberg's decades spent in pursuit of lost treasures offered him more than just artifacts. They shaped a unique set of lessons about life and purpose. One striking lesson was the value of patience and persistence. Treasure hunting demands long stretches of uncertainty, where success often hinges not on speed, but on steady, thoughtful effort. Dennis learned that rushing toward a goal without respect for timing and process rarely yields lasting results. He also discovered the importance of humility in the face of nature and history. No matter how skilled or prepared, a treasure hunter encounters forces beyond control: storms, shifting landscapes, and the hidden depths of the past. This humility became a cornerstone of Dennis's approach, reminding him that mastery meant acknowledging limits and learning continuously. It was a lesson that extended well beyond the hunt into how he approached all challenges. Another key lesson was the significance of teamwork and shared knowledge. Although popularly depicted as solitary adventurers, successful treasure hunters like Dennis rely heavily on the networks of experts, historians, and local guides. Collaboration opens doors to new insights and safer expeditions. Dennis came to value this collective wisdom as vital not only to the hunt's success, but also to preserving the cultural heritage tied to the treasure's. Adaptability was yet another insight Dennis embraced. Each expedition is unpredictable, requiring creative problem-solving and an open mind. Conditions change, clues turn cold, and technologies evolve. Dennis understood that rigidity could end a search prematurely, while flexibility often unlocked new paths forward. This adaptability reflected a larger life truth: embracing change allows growth even in adversity. The emotional lessons were perhaps the most profound. Dennis learned to navigate hope and disappointment, celebrating small victories while managing the pain of missed opportunities. This emotional resilience became as important as physical endurance. It showed him the value of balance between ambition and acceptance, excitement and patience, that sustained his spirit over the years. Beyond personal skills, Dennis's hunt taught him about legacy. The artifacts he recovered connected him to generations before and after, reminding him that his actions would ripple through time. This understanding deepened his commitment to ethical stewardship, ensuring treasures were preserved and stories honored rather than exploited. It was a lesson in responsibility that transcended the individual. Dennis also reflected on the meaning of success, shifting from a focus on material gain to one centered on contribution and knowledge. He came to believe that true achievement lies in what you give back, how you enrich collective understanding and inspire others. His changing definition of success echoed a universal human desire for significance beyond wealth. Finally, Dennis's lessons emphasized the fleeting nature of life and the urgent need to prioritize what matters. In his final reflections, he urged others not to wait until the end to find meaning. Whether hunting treasure or simply living a life, the pursuit should be infused with purpose, love, and integrity. This impermanence fueled his message to treasure the journey as much as the discoveries. With these lessons in hand, the transformation in Dennis's priorities and worldview was inevitable, opening a new chapter in his extraordinary journey. Changing priorities. Dennis Asberg's transformation was profound, shifting his focus from the material rewards of treasure hunting to the deeper meanings of life itself. After years of chasing physical riches, he began to prioritize relationships, memories, and personal growth over any artifact's monetary value. This change did not come easily. It was the result of quiet reflection brought on by his awareness of mortality. Dennis saw that no treasure could replace the time lost or the connections neglected in the relentless pursuit of gold. This shift led him to redefine what success meant. Rather than measuring achievement by the size of a find or its price tag, Dennis began valuing the impact he could have on others and the stories he could help preserve. He spoke of fulfillment as something rooted in sharing knowledge and inspiring curiosity about history's lessons. The treasure was no longer a secret to be hoarded, but a bridge to connect people across generations. The importance of leaving a positive legacy beyond material possessions was also recognized by Dennis. Due to the shift in his priorities, he then became more ethically responsible to the cultures and the environments that are disturbed by treasure hunting practices. Now, although he was on the discovery side, the fact of protecting these elements had acquired equal importance along with the aspect of discovery itself. It was indeed this new mindset that gave Dennis a sense of peace, because he felt that instead of merely possessing, he was contributing something lasting and respectful. Gradually, as his values changed, Dennis experienced joy in simpler things, like keeping the company of his loved ones, telling stories, or just enjoying the beautiful but transitory aspect of life. The excitement of the hunt had given way to elation for what really lasts. He was quite liberally giving others the advice to value these intangibles, while at the same time warning them not to be dazzled by the glitter of material gain. This mature attitude resonated with the people who were aware of the costs that were often hidden beneath the adventurous tales. The shift in Dennis's priorities also impacted his view of ambition. He had no qualms about admitting that the urge to accomplish is human nature, but he cautioned that such urge needs to be coupled with empathy and self-awareness. Ambition that is not backed by reflection may lead to a void, while purpose, enriched with meaning, becomes a source of life for the soul. He not only called the treasure hunters, but everyone else to nurture wisdom, along with passion, in order to make their lives enriching. This transformation within impacted Dennis's choices remarkably throughout the last years of his life. He openly gave and generously mentored others instead of laying down his secrets. His liberality was a strong support of the idea that common comprehension was much more valuable than the individual winning. Dennis's behavior was in line with the changing priorities he was heralding, a legacy of transparency and inspiration. His new and different viewpoint made Dennis embrace his own death with a wonderful mixture of serenity and lucidity. Acknowledgement of the transience of life pushed him to concentrate on the matters of highest importance: human relationships, mission, and righteous management. This very acknowledgement not only stamped his message with more urgency, but also turned it into a living call. Let's live meaningfully while the time is still on. As priorities reshaped, the ripple effects of Dennis's message soon reached his community of fellow treasure hunters, prompting reflection and change among those who shared his passion. Impact on the treasure community. Dennis Asberg's message did more than challenge his own path. It sent waves through the tight-knit treasure hunting community, stirring deep reflection and debate. Many who had admired his discoveries found themselves reconsidering their own motivations and goals. Some embraced Dennis's call to dig deeper, not just for artifacts, but for meaning and ethical responsibility. while others struggled with the challenge to rethink traditions ingrained over decades. The community, once focused largely on competition and acquisition, began to open conversations about stewardship and the importance of preserving history sensitively. Dennis's words encouraged hunters to balance ambition with respect for cultural heritage, shifting priorities from personal gain toward shared legacy. This reconsideration sparked changes in how some expeditions were planned and conducted, emphasizing collaboration over secrecy. Mentorship became an area of renewed focus as Dennis's example inspired veteran hunters to guide newcomers thoughtfully. Passing on more than technical skills, mentors emphasized respect for history and ethical dilemmas. This emphasis helped reshape the culture around treasure hunting, infusing it with a stronger sense of purpose beyond the chase. However, the impact was not universally embraced. Some community members resisted, holding tightly to the traditional narratives that celebrated spectacular finds and treasures' monetary value. They viewed Dennis's message as a departure from the essence of their craft, or even as a threat to livelihoods dependent on treasure recovery. This tension highlighted a rift between evolving ideals and established practices within the field. Despite resistance, Dennis's influence encouraged explorers to consider the environmental and legal consequences of their quests more seriously. New discussions on sustainable practices and collaboration with archaeologists began to take root, reflecting a maturing approach to treasure hunting. These shifts represented a broader awareness that the hunt carries responsibilities beyond discovery alone. Outside the immediate community, Dennis's message enhanced public understanding of the complexities and ethical questions tied to treasure exploration. This brought greater scrutiny, but also respect, fostering partnerships with institutions and indigenous groups. Treasure hunters who adopted these values found increased support and credibility, redefining their role in preserving shared human history. The message also inspired some in the community to document and share their stories more transparently. By highlighting the human stories linked to their finds, they contributed to a richer narrative around treasure hunting, one blending adventure with education and preservation. These efforts helped bridge gaps between enthusiasts, scholars, and the general public. This evolving conversation set the stage for the final chapter in Dennis Asberg's story, where his lasting influence and urgent warnings would resonate most deeply: legacy and final warning. Dennis Asberg's legacy extends far beyond the treasures he uncovered. What endures is his call for introspection, respect, and purpose. A reminder that the most meaningful discoveries are often internal. He urged treasure hunters and people everywhere to see searching not just as the pursuit of artifacts, but as a quest for history, meaning, and human connection. His final warning carried urgency. Dennis reminded others that time is limited, and postponing life's deeper questions until the end is a tragic mistake. Pursuing material rewards without reflection, he cautioned, risks missing life's true richness. His message became a meditation on mortality and the values worth preserving. Stewardship was central to his philosophy. Dennis believed treasure hunters must evolve from extractors to guardians, honoring the cultures, stories, and ecosystems tied to their finds. He imagined a future in which explorers also serve as protectors and educators, reshaping the purpose of their craft. His influence led to real changes, more transparency, collaboration, and sustainability within the treasure hunting community. Through advocacy and mentorship, he inspired others to embrace responsibility over conquest, ensuring his impact would endure. Dennis's reflections reached far beyond his field. His insights into impermanence and fulfillment encouraged people from all backgrounds to reconsider what truly matters. His story became a universal reminder to live intentionally. Even when met with skepticism, Dennis stayed resolute. Challenging norms with honesty, he sparked broader conversations about the purpose of discovery. In his final appearances, he spoke with calm conviction, knowing his message was his greatest gift. Dennis Asberg's journey transforms the way we think about treasure, urging us to value meaning and legacy above riches. His story teaches patience, humility, and purpose in the face of life's fleeting nature. If his revelation moved you, please like this video and subscribe for more stories that challenge our perspectives and inspire change.